Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. Tonight's episode, Xtreme TV. Season 1, Episode 13, Kolchak, the Night Stalker. Primal Scream is the name of this title, and it's not the Motley Crue album. It is what I will start off, gentlemen, by saying is the worst Kolchak episode I have seen up to this point. It should be scrapped from all existence. It's horrible. There's nothing good or redeeming to say about it. We always knew there'd be a turd in a show that we'd watch, although those of you that are listening to Twin Peaks, Professor Pixel and I's review of that great ABC show, we're about halfway through season 2. We haven't had a bad episode yet, but Kolchak, damn it, there's so many things we like about it, and I know we all like somewhat different things and agree there's some great stuff, but this episode, gentlemen, has absolutely the worst Kolchak stuff for me personally. That includes Ron and him having interactions. That includes him arguing with whoever the cop of the week is that wants to be a jerk to him, breaking his camera. It's got a forgettable monster of the week, and it's no monster. And it's got all this damn green PC nonsense in the early 70s, getting off the gold standard and the so-called energy crisis, allegedly, that happened there too, thanks to Nixon's price controls and everything else there too. So without going down that rabbit hole, gentlemen, let me start off with you, RDV, before that damn puppet next to you wants to say something. What's your take on this episode?
It sucks. It's just, it's like you pointed out, like it was probably the worst episode, mainly because it was about a caveman who thought out and was on the loose and started killing people. And the thing is that he looked like orangutan. He looked bad.
It looked like one of the kids from Planet of the Apes, like the third or fourth one when they get the nuclear warhead, and some of the costumes aren't too good, like 71 or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe War for the Planet of the Apes, I'm guessing. But you're absolutely right. I know you and I have differed on our opinion about aspects of Kolchak, but I think we agree on this one.
It said it just led to him like Kolchak chasing after and trying to take it down, and he's led back to the sewer again.
Yeah.
Like we've seen him in the sewer before, that was more frightening. The other monster.
Yeah. All right. The real Night Talker. Go ahead, stroke your damn beard and get it over with. Let's go. Initial thoughts.
Y'all are out of your damn mind. Out of your damn mind. This episode's one of the greatest starring shows of the whole dang series. We go from Mr. Brain last episode, which is the government trying to hide this robot project that you are well aware of. But this one, the government has to step in after active cells have grown into this almost prehistoric man ape. This missing link. It really harkens back to the last episode we just damn watched.
Except for the last one we watched was good and didn't suck. Superfan Eric Breen will be happy to know that Jamie Farr plays the high school biology teacher in here, whatever the hell he's supposed to be, and that's about it. Look, the idea was somewhat interesting, I think, for the Monster of the Week. Biologist starting off the episode gets whacked. There's a conspiracy because of what he's been working on. His assistant, of course, they're always hot assistants, right? I mean, that's just how TV works. His hot assistant basically tells Kolchak about what's going on, and he discovers that, there were some Arctic samples of ice that had some cells in there, and the cooler kind of stopped working, so the cells started multiplying and everything else too. Of course, without food or energy, who would know? But let's not forget one of the basics of all science. You have to have energy to do work. And of course, it rapidly multiplied, became this dumb-looking, dumb, stupid creature. No, it's just, even Darren McGavin, as crazy as, could not save this episode. It felt forced, and it might have had a couple of decent ingredients, but it didn't work. The voiceover didn't work for me. Starting off, they talk about Fat Man, Little Boy, the whole Manhattan Project, that type of thing. And so they're like, okay, I wonder what they're going to go with this. And it's a very eco-friendly, allegedly from the 70s type of thing there too. And it just, whenever you go woke and Kolchak, it doesn't work. A real Night Talker, you're saying this is a really good episode. You better give us one reason why it's good, though, so we can at least talk about that.
I mean, the concept itself. It is more than more than we usually get. It is more science fiction than it is supernatural. Like the last episode that y'all just talked about, where you have that kid going around using my damn name.
Mr. Ring from episode 12 looks like Godzilla in comparison to this little dog that we see on screen.
You mean TV face?
Appearance.
You're talking about the damn TV face that we watched all last episode. This is basically Monkey Man. He's basically like the Wolf Man.
Okay. I won't argue that point with you.
But the Wolfman was more entertaining. It's
They
like
still
a cruise
look
ship,
real.
man. The love
Yeah.
boats.
I was entertained. I was thoroughly entertained. I thought the entire interaction with that biology teacher you were talking about was far more interesting. His interactions with each character were just as solid as the last however many damn episodes y'all were talking about.
I'm so happy for you, Night Talker. Look, I think one of the important things that we talk about with TV, especially in our current Twin Peaks review, is that it's very hard sometimes to introduce new characters, new plot lines, go faster in one and catch up to some others, let other ones simmer for a little bit and then take off. Kolchak's a pretty straightforward show, and that has its pluses and minuses. In RTV, you and I have talked about how we really love the TV movies, how we both kind of feel that the TV show's a bit of a step down from both. But that being said, we know what the template is. We know what we're going to get. For me, as little Vincenzo and governmental stuff as possible to me, or at least arguing with, cop figureheads, I think is great. I like it when he's just talking to the average Joe on the street, doing the investigative work and all that. And just dealing with normal day people is where Kolchak really shines. But I don't get any redeeming value out of this episode at all. And is there anything, RDB, you can say about this particular episode that you think is good?
The ending.
It ends. Well, okay. Well, let's just take a moment, gentlemen, and let's just kind of think about this. We're not really trying to bag on the show. We really love the show. That's why we're covering it. It's obviously an older show from the early mid-70s. So it's hard to say, in today's world, unless you're a hardcore fan of whether or not you're going to like this sort of thing. But it's right up our alley here on the Xtreme Movie Show, where we cover science fiction, fantasy. We're 80s based primarily with movies. We dabble in some television shows that we're doing. We're reviewing the new Kung Fu, for example, and I may be forced to have to review the old one. But it's interesting because we try to sometimes just say what's good about a show just for the show's sake rather than getting all pissy about it. So I just want to close with this. I'll let this episode go. I don't care. That's fine. If there's several more like this, I'll be disappointed. I do know, though, that Darren McGavin really did a lot of things behind the screen, as it were, to make each episode work. And when you're filming an episode a week, and turning it out, sometimes the editing doesn't work, or you get a bad scene that you can't get out. You don't have enough film to edit from. This episode just didn't feel like, well, it might have had an interesting idea, a space seed, kind of like Khan from the original Star Trek. I will agree with Night Talker on that. I just think the execution of everything just didn't seem to work. Everybody seemed tired on screen. The chemistry was not there, which is really surprising. And even the monologues at the beginning and end just didn't like punch. One of them was horribly edited too, where you can clearly see him talking, but he goes to a different voice. It was overdubbed. And maybe sometimes something as small and as simple as that can really turn you off as a viewer. But for me, I'm just glad to get it over with, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next one. So, RDV, final thoughts before we go to the Night Talker for his final thoughts.
Like I said, this could have been a better episode. Maybe it just the way the creature looked just seemed kind of weird. It's just bad.
It was bad.
Yeah. Helen Lenshaw was in here though. She's one of the scientists that gets in. He sneaks in, trying to interview her. Remember they wouldn't let him. Yeah. I thought that was kind of clever how he got in there.
Yeah, hold the plant up on the side. Oh, that Kolchak. Yeah, that was kind of cute when he does stuff like that. Things on his feet.
But yeah, I mean, and it was kind of cool seeing Jamie Farr in there. AKA, he played his role as Jack Burton in there.
Yeah.
Other than that, I gotta say, for majority of these episodes, they're good.
Yes.
They're not the great, but they're good. And I mainly look for like all the people who are like the guests appearing on the show. That's always been like back, even with the Incredible Hulk, you know, I always like looking at who the guests are and stuff. You know, it's just cool seeing people who are like, who normally aren't in like, you know, a lot of stuff are now appearing on TV shows.
Yes.
Guest starring because their movie careers were back in the heyday. So now they're guest starring on all these 70s sitcoms, you know, or dramas, I should say.
That's a good point. A lot of people argue that the 70s really was the best decade for television and movies. I always like to say it was the 80s in terms of movies, just in terms of enjoyment, because that's where I grew up. But I'm not going to deny how strong the 70s were as far as
the guest appearances were awesome.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, and it doesn't fail in here with Jamie Farr and some others. But I guess that only leaves the Night Talker with his final thoughts. Hopefully, he'll have something relevant to say this time instead of just a bunch of "you don't know what the hell you're talking about."
I think you need to go back to that to the fake doctor right there. What he's talking about when he says the end where Carl is trying to calm the beast, and what happens? Police far in the distance, they stir him up. He ends up pushing Carl against the wall, holding him there. And you see those police officers, they stop. They stop and watch for half a minute. You know that police captain is considering letting the monkey finish his job. But
actually, no, they're getting ready to shoot him because he just killed a woman, sir.
They were watching. You saw them. They were coming up close, and they weren't moving their guns towards them at all.
You gotta realize it's dark, and they're still under the sewer. They don't know what's going on. You know, they see Kolchak there, you know, and they don't know what's going on, so they're getting ready to shoot.
I'm sure the captain would have held up his fist as in a pause and stay right here quiet behind me, because if we just wait 30 seconds more, Kolchak get his face mauled off, and then we can shoot the damn thing and call it a day and go have some cruise.
Yep, you can see as they are just watching. But then you know that Big Brother's coming in. They're taking that creature and they're going to be testing it.
If only Kolchak would have had a cross with Darren McGavin being or giving him these files to given the X Files all of his unsolved cases and tapes.
This whole episode would have been solved by him just pulling out a Slim Jim, giving it to the monkey.
Take it.
What?
All right, there you guys. There you guys have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kolchak Season 1, Episode 13. We tried to find something good to say. I don't know that we did, and
it's just a bad episode. I mean, I try not to bash on it, but there's not really much good you can say about it.
No, but here's the thing. Sometimes when you don't have great TV, it can be entertaining. If it's a train wreck, doesn't have to. I'm not saying this episode is, but maybe when we get Professor Pixel back next week, he'll have something positive to say about it. Because I'm the one that usually points out some of the flaws, and you guys usually a lot more effusive in your praise about it. But
there's nothing good I could say about this episode other than it was a short episode.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for listening. I'll agree with RDV. The best thing we say about this episode right now is that it ends. Have a good night, and as always, stay extreme.
Extreme.
Remember, they're watching.
The puppet master is watching.